kicking, never quitting. Focus sharp like a blade that's hitting. From white belt dreams to the master flow, Paul Coffey's got the mic, now the stories grow. Technique entails discipline and fire. Each guest brings truth to inspire. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise, it's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Old school, new school, all styles blend. From the mat to the mic, where the arts ascend. Philosophy deep, but the vibe stays tight. Martial minds meeting in the podcast light. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise, it's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Keep kicking. Keep kicking. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins. Technique entails discipline and fire. Each guest brings truth to inspire. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise, it's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Keep kicking. Keep kicking. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins.
So how, I can honestly say that I love my life. And I say that every day. I say that every day, often. Like, I just love my life. And it's just the other thing I say often throughout my day is, well, that worked out well.
How brilliant.
Yeah, I'm loving life. I'm feeling great. And, I'm getting older and feeling better every day.
That's the goal, right?
It's one of them, is to keep the body, the mind, the emotions, the spirit integrated and improving and growing and developing. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
Love it.
I'm living my best life. I truly am.
Love it. So tell me about your travels. Tell me what we've learned.
Are we recording or no?
We are recording right now.
Oh, okay. My gosh, it was experience upon experience upon experience. And each one of those experiences has a level to it.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of processing going on. I've only been home about a little over a week, just about a week. And so there's lots and lots of processing going on and understanding. But it was, so I went to Mongolia. And where I primarily was in a place called the Taiga, Taiga, which is right. I was about 25 miles south of the Russian border of Siberia. So very far north, 50-degree latitude, very far north. And we primarily were in nomadic reindeer camps with nomadic reindeer herders, and sometimes in the village in between where a lot of they may live, and it like kind of like think of like Arctic village.
Okay.
And then some time was spent driving from the main city. It took 2 days to get from the main city, Ulaanbaatar, which is like the main city in Mongolia. It was like a 2-day drive to get to the north. And very vast, beautiful country. And part of the reason, there was multiple reasons for going. One of the reasons it was a spiritual journey. Another reason we were delivering vitamins and medicine and hygiene supplies to these remote camps.
Excellent work.
And yeah, they were really appreciative of that. And then to just have the experience.
Mm,
So it was eye-opening. It was really
mhm,
eye-opening. So there was like a 2-day drive. We did it we actually ended up splitting it into 3 days, I think. And then experiencing the country as we went.
mhm,
And it was me and my partner, and we had a driver and a woman who was our guide and translator. And she grew up in the camps and in the northern village.
mm.
And she grew up learning shamanism and being in that's 30% of the people are shamanistic, and they or follow shamanism. In that area of the country, it's primarily shamanism. And then we had to go by horseback the rest of the way. Um, so that
So
in itself,
so 3 days in a car and then horseback the rest of the way.
yeah, I think it was 2 or 3 days in car. And then the first horseback trip, we got lucky because they were in their spring camp. Because if they were in their summer camp, the horseback ride would have been more than twice as long. So the
Oof.
first ride was like, I think it was like 2.5, 3 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, but not like a little trail ride. I mean, this was rough, wild country, very muddy, forest, going through rivers, up steep mountains, through rock, and just it was probably one of the most challenging things I've ever done. And I'm not skilled at horseback riding, so it was a challenge. So we did a total of about 12 hours horseback to and from the camps. And then there was one day we went by reindeer to visit some people in some of the outlying teepees. And that was so much fun. I mean, that was a blast. That was a blast. But there was so much to learn. And then I ended up I had told my translator, because she knew the person that that connected us. And I had
Mhm.
told her that I do some, healing work. We were at on the ride up, we were at her aunt's house, at her aunt and uncle's house. And her aunt was saying her back was bothering her. I said, well, tell her I can maybe help a little bit. So I did some healing work on her, and her back felt better. And then all of a sudden, some guy shows up who I have no idea who he was, and he had a back issue, and I helped him out. So by the
Good
time
try.
we got to the village, we stayed at her father's home, and I helped him with his back issue, and then helped him with his stress levels. So by the time we got to the reindeer camp, she had told them that I was a healer, and I did between 40 and 50 healing sessions while I was there.
Mm.
It was
Excellent
cool.
work.
So I
Excellent
learned,
work.
and it was less than ideal situation to do healing work. I mean, it was out of my comfort zone big time. So I
Mhm.
learned a lot about healing, doing healing work, what works for me. And, it wasn't like the comfort of my home on my massage table with, the music playing and just nice and quiet. It wasn't like that at all. We're in teepees with people coming in and out on log beds, and, and people wearing they're called deals. They're like a robe type thing that they wear, and
Okay.
sometimes they wouldn't take off their boots, and I'm trying to bend over with the teepee at an angle. It was not ideal. Plus the language and the
Mhm.
culture. But I think I did some good work there, and I learned a lot about healing work while I was there. I feel I really did help some people out. They kept coming back. I would do healing work on them one day, and they'd say, "Can I come back?" And they'd come back 2 or 3 more times, like successive days.
That's
So
wonderful.
I must have been helping them because they kept coming back. And then there was one thing that happened that I wanted to share, because I know this is a martial arts podcast.
Okay.
So we had been invited. We were staying in a teepee in the forest. This was the first camp we went to in the middle of, I mean, it's the largest boreal forest in the world. I mean, it's massive. But like I said, we rode for like 2.5 hours, and we weren't even close to going to the summer camp, which was at a higher elevation, because they moved for their reindeer. And then the people in the grasslands of Mongolia move for their cattle, their sheep, their goat, and their horses. So they are in the grasslands, they're nomadic as well. But in
Hmm.
the taiga, they move for elevation because they have to go to colder environment for the reindeer. So we were in this really deep, deep forest, beautiful, I was feeling really drawn to this place. Even as we got closer to the camp, or even closer to the taiga, I was feeling this draw, like I'm going home. I mean, it was really strong. So I was in the forest, and it was it was a very deep experience for me. And we do Qigong each morning and meditate, and before I had to do healing work, and also go to all the different teepees, either go to them or they'd come to me, or just meet people. And so we got invited to this one kind of ceremony where the groom's soon to be groom's family was asking permission from the bride's family. That's how they do it. So they did this ceremony, and in the teepee, and they had lots of kind of food and stuff, and they have vodka. So they pass around the vodka and stuff. And I did take a shot of it. And it was actually, I'm not a drinker, but it actually was
Hmm.
pretty good. And then after that, you take a sip each time. And sometimes you go out of the teepee for a while, and sometimes you come back. It's like a celebration.
Hmm.
And it would get hot in here because there was a lot of people. But later on, we had enough of it, and we went back near our teepee, and we were just hanging out. And all of a sudden, we hear later on there people riding by on their horses or their reindeer, and you could tell these people were obviously drunk, right?
Okay.
And vodka is a pretty serious problem. So when they drink vodka, they drink to the end of the bottle. Like they never open a bottle without finishing it. It's actually a very serious problem. But it was funny at first, people riding by on their reindeer going back to their teepees and stuff, and they were laughing and jovial. But then a little while later, and there were some people who were just obnoxiously drunk, and then there was a couple who were like really seriously drunk, like this is a problem. But then we're sitting we're sitting inside our teepee, me and my partner sitting inside the teepee. And the thing is, when you're in the teepee, there's no privacy. People come in
Hmm.
and out all the time. And throughout our whole time there, no matter which teepee you're in, people just come in and out. It's just a flap. And so there's zero privacy. So some of the drunk people coming in and out, and our guide and translator would make some food for them or whatever, or talk to them. But a little while later, our teepee flap was open, and I could see this happening. You start hearing this screaming and yelling, like really like anger, like unbelievable anger. And I saw somebody come by with this big stick, and they start hitting another person. They're hitting each other with sticks. They're brawling on the ground. This is like 10 feet from our teepee.
Hmm.
A whole bunch of people screaming, yelling, a drunken brawl with sticks. And I got to tell you, I've met tough people in my life.
Hmm.
These people in these reindeer camps and this was one of the things I noticed, the toughest people I've ever met in my life.
And do you think
They
that's
live in
because of,
survival mode.
yeah,
They
yeah.
live in survival mode in one of the harshest environments you can imagine. And they are just in survival mode all the time. And they do hard work. They're just the toughest people I've ever met. So there's men and women, and they're beating each other up, and we're sitting in the teepee kind of watching this happen. You feel the energy of all this anger. Now, some of them would come in and out, and I was sitting, like, say, here, my partner was sitting here, and then the teepee flap was on the other side of her.
Hmm.
And some people were coming in and out, and they'd sit next to her, and then they go out, and finally I'm like, you need to move to the other side of me. I need it to be between her and the door. And so here's the whole thing with martial arts. We think of all the scenarios that we play out, right? You as a teacher, all of us as martial artists. And we know, don't keep anybody between you and the door. Make sure you have an exit route. Make sure you have a weapon. Make sure you have an escape route. Here I was on the other side of the world,
Mhm.
in the middle of this massive forest with
Mm.
no privacy, no way to lock a door, nothing to put between me and the door, with a people that are unbelievably angry and have the ability for extreme violence,
Mhm.
and not knowing their culture, where the line was for them, how far they had I'd only been there 2 days at that point. So there was this massive unknown. Are they going to start bothering my partner?
Mhm.
And are they going to start bothering me? I had no clue, and I had nowhere to go,
Mhm.
no ability to, like, the whole scenario was the antithesis of what they say to get into as a martial artist here in the United States, where we have control over these things.
Right.
I had no control over anything at that point,
Mm.
right? So so this is the lesson learned. So I just stayed in my space, knowing I was going to protect her. And she said she was just feeling bad for them the whole time,
Mm.
compassion. And we talked about it at length at the end. I said, my switch went on as soon as they were coming out and they were hitting each other with sticks. The switch went on, like, we got to be safe here, right?
Mhm.
As martial artists, right? The switch went on.
Right.
We need to
Right.
be safe. But we were in an unbelievably vulnerable position,
Mhm.
right? So we talked about it after, and it made me feel good that she said all she thought about was she felt safe for them, because she said she felt safe. It never occurred to her she wasn't safe.
Brilliant.
So that felt good to me, knowing that she
Right.
felt safe because I was there, right?
Mhm.
But in
Absolutely.
my mind, I had to be thinking, what am I going to do here? Right? So
Mhm.
what I did was I just paid attention to my way of being, stayed away from the fear, right? Didn't let the fear come up, and recognized all the uncertainty, and just let myself be ready for anything that occurred.
Mhm.
Not thinking I'm going to do X, Y, or Z.
Right. Well, because you couldn't have.
There was no way to know what was going to happen.
Right.
There was no way to know. One of the lessons learned here out of this is, and in the end, it all worked out good. And then they they were up to so late, yelling and screaming outside and talking. And finally, they were like right outside. I'm like, I'm going to sleep at this point, right? I lay down on it's a log bed with just a canvas between me and the outside, right? And they're yelling and screaming at each other, this husband and wife. And finally, I was just like, Spirit, can you just please move them along? Right? They can keep doing what they want to do. And I just, like, said a bunch of prayers, asked Spirit, I'm like, just move them away.
Mhm.
Let them do what they want to do. I just want to get some sleep. And within a couple minutes, they moved to a different part of the forest and stuff, which was pretty cool in itself. But
Mm.
the lesson is that one of the lessons that came out of this that we talked about when we got home, and I kind of processed through, was this. We set up our lives, particularly as martial artists, but really in every aspect of our life, we have these habitual patterns we get into,
Mhm.
and we think that that's the way the world actually is.
Right.
So we may train in our dojo, we may even train with other people, we may come up with scenarios out in the community, but it's still
Mhm.
a pattern we develop.
So
There's a lot of certainty, even though we train for uncertainty, like I did full contact fighting for a while, there's a lot of uncertainty, but there was still certainty that we were going to be
Mhm.
fighting. There was still certainty that it could stop. There was, right? And even in my real
Right.
life situations, there was still a lot of pattern there,
Mhm.
right? There was still, even though there were a lot of times there were unknowns when you're dealing with, like, say, somebody who's like incredibly irrational and delusional.
Mhm.
That's nothing compared to when everything becomes an unknown,
Ooh, yes. Well, you know
right?
what's interesting about what you've said is when everything was an unknown, what you did is controlled the known. You controlled yourself. You
That's
went
all I could
inward.
do.
That's powerful in itself. And there is some level of comfort there in knowing, even in the most unknown of situations, you still do have control over yourself.
And that's the lesson, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the lessons. The other lesson is it's really important, I think, for us to grow, to get out of our patterns,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
To say that these habitual patterns that we think are going to work,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That this is going to work. You know, the thought of fighting these people was not high on my list, right?
Right.
And I
Right.
certainly wasn't thinking, oh, well, I can defend myself. I mean, I think I can, but I
Right.
certainly didn't want it to be that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also was going to be spending time with these people, right? And it was so it's that, but it really comes down to understanding that as much training as we do in our
Mm-hmm.
community, that we are developing a habitual pattern. And that, not
Mm.
to say that that's bad, right? Because
Right.
it helps us to
Right.
develop skill and stuff. But we also have to recognize we may be missing something.
Mm.
So for me to go on
Absolutely.
the, and this was on every level of my being, but this was a good, really real life scenario that occurred that I could share that gives an example of
Mm-hmm.
feeling, of being out of my comfort zone, right? Like as far out of my comfort zone as I could possibly be, right? And I didn't speak the language, right? Like everything about
Right.
it, right? Everything about it, you know? And so I mean, I feel good the way that I responded. I didn't react. I responded. I knew enough to change the one thing I did, I changed the position of my partner so they would have to go through me to get to her,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I knew enough to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I had no idea. So I just paid attention. What's my state of being? And am I ready for whatever
Mm-hmm.
shows itself
Mm-hmm. I,
without
I
thinking what is going to happen?
I want to know if in that situation you also felt like you were checking in on the partner and like not just over here you're safe, but also were you noticing if she was regulated, if she felt nervous in that moment? You talked
Absolutely.
about it afterwards,
Yeah.
but
No,
yeah.
absolutely. Because when she was sitting between me and the tent flap, and then people would come in and sit on the bed next to her, we were sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
And they would come in and they were drunk and being a little obnoxious, not being handsy or anything, just being
Hmm.
obnoxious. And then
Right.
they'd shoo away. And I noticed at one point, she's like, I hope he doesn't come. I think she said something like, I hope he doesn't come back again. Or, boy, that
Mm,
I said something about the last person. Then finally, it occurred to me, no, she needs to move. And then after that, I was noticing, and we would check in, you know, you doing okay. And then it was interesting. At one point, one woman came in who was not drinking and who we both had really liked a lot, both before then and connected. And I did a few healing sessions on her, and she was one of the nicest people we met in the camp. And she
mhm,
came in and sat next to me on the bed, and she goes, "Shh," and closed the flap.
mm,
And she was a relative, they're all relatives, relative of one of the people, and she just wanted, she's like, she was basically like kind of hiding and didn't want anything to do with it. But was staying pretty peaceful, and I was peaceful. At that moment, we were all just in a place of peace, right? We were just in a place of peace, the three of us, as all this violence was happening on the other side of the canvas, right? So we created this place of peace in that moment. Right? And then after a while, and I think she was kind of just hiding, getting away, or she was just fed up with it or something. I don't know. Because we couldn't talk. We didn't have the language. But so she was either fed up with it or just wanted to get away from it. I don't know. But after a while, she left, and then people started coming in and out again. Right. But we had that moment like, okay, here's a place of peace. Let's hold on to this, you know. So it's very
I
interesting. I mean, there's so much to unpack with this.
isn't that the like the ultimate goal as a martial artist is to be your own peace and to create that peace for you and those that are around you, though.
You know, that's my feeling. You know, that's the
You
way I feel, and that's what I try to teach.
right.
It's, the skill is helpful for sure.
Mm-hmm.
To know that you're going to be okay. But in that case, I didn't know I was going to be okay, even with the
Right.
skill I have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these people, the strength of these people, the physical strength that they have, because I worked on them. I know their
They live a
physical strength.
very tough life.
These are hardened people. They're good people. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
forget the drinking. All the people we met were these amazing, the hospitality, the
Mm.
welcoming, the kindness. It's the part I miss the most is the people that I met there. They were amazing people, except when they drank, right? But who they are an incredible people. And I love them. I mean, they were great. So
You
that
know,
was one of the big takeaways was that, and I'm still unpacking it.
no, it's good to unpack. I remember I was watching a shaman give a teaching on alcoholism. And he had said, do you know that it was originally called spirits? That was the first name. And that was because it was given by doctors to patients, and it would tell them what spirit was inhibiting the body.
Wow.
What spirit were you being possessed by? And then they knew how to treat the spirit, because you have somebody jovial and then they become angry when they're drinking, or,
Right.
whatever. And so it informed the practice. And I think that that's interesting that you say they were all wonderful people until they drank. That's very, very interesting. So, like, what I've been doing is trying to use this as a platform to promote people stepping outside of their dojo and going to other places because, like, that's one of the things that we as martial artists neglect, okay, is not many of us do tournaments outside of their school or outside of their, organization. Not many of us go and do random clinics with other people, but that's like just scratching the surface, because how many of us go out into the middle of the woods, nowhere in the mountains, and get that level? I wonder what you think is the best way for martial artists to gain that knowledge, to get that imprint.
That's a great question, and what occurred to me when you were saying going to like different dojos, things like that. My previous getting out of the certainty was I worked for a while on an inpatient psychiatric unit as a
Mm,
nurse. And some people would get very violent, delusional. So I had to learn how to apply it in those situations where I couldn't hurt the person. I
mm-hmm.
learned through that experience to not only care for myself and not get hurt, care for the people around me, my staff, the other patients, but also care for the person who's trying to hurt me.
Yes.
So I learned that that's possible to do, that
Mm-hmm.
everybody can walk away from a situation and not be hurt. So that doesn't answer your question, but that was a thought that came to mind. So I had a precursor to this,
Yeah.
right? Because if you think about what you said, like going to tournaments that are not involved with your school or your community, going to different dojos, things like that, it's still the martial arts community.
Sure. I mean,
So
it expands a practice, but
it
it doesn't
does.
expand it to the same level at all.
Not to the experience that I just had.
Right.
I didn't plan on the experience, so I couldn't have formulated you can't
Sure.
formulate the unknown. So
Absolutely.
that's the rub, right? That's the catch 22. We want to have these experiences of being placed in a situation that's so uncertain and so unknown that it tests us. And we
Mm-hmm.
learn from that because the tests always hopefully lead to learning, but you can't plan for them. Because if you're planning for them, then you're bringing your habitual pattern with you. So what I would just say is, and this taps into the spiritual lesson, the major spiritual lesson I learned from going.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one piece of the puzzle, which is pay attention. And what do I mean by pay attention? What are we paying attention to? Everything at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at everything you're in, not from the viewpoint of I am this and I do this and I do that, but
Mm,
paying attention to the way things actually are. And then notice what's going on inside your own skin, and notice what is your state of being while you are going through them. So maybe it is just you're on a highway and you get a flat tire. That is a situation that is unplanned, unexpected, and maybe a lot of uncertainty.
mm-hmm.
Let's add some rain into it. Let's add that
Yeah.
it's 4 o'clock in the morning in a place that you don't know anybody.
Mm,
That's your martial arts right there, training right there.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Because in real life, we're not fighting another person,
Mm-hmm. That's right.
right? We are there in a situation. And sometimes the situation involves relationship with another. Sometimes the situation involves a relationship with the situation, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Whether you are needing to stop somebody from hitting you with a baseball bat, or you are trying to deal with that scenario I just gave, what's your state of being while you're going through it?
Mm,
Because it's the same thing, right? Power is power is power, whether you use it for good or bad. It's just power. Peace is peace is peace is peace. Whether you're using it to deal with a flat tire in the middle of the night in an unknown neighborhood, or you're dealing with some drunken person in a bar. Are you at peace? Can you remain stable and steady and be unhurried in what you're doing? Or are you in a reactive mode? So I think the best answer I have for you to that question is pay attention to every situation you're in and every encounter you have, and notice what's going on inside yourself.
that's brilliant. I'm reminded of one of my students who he came to me and he said, Sensei, I cannot tell you the last time I needed to defend myself physically, but I can tell you that my martial arts was present when my father passed away.
Wow. That's powerful,
Yeah.
right? That's really
Yeah.
powerful. You're a good
Yeah.
teacher if you had a student that said that, right? Well, that's super powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an illustration of that. So,
Absolutely.
and then you could also take it into the physical world and say, let me go to places that are not my norm. Let me have
Mm-hmm.
experiences that are so far out, and wherever your comfort line is, go a little out of it, right? Don't be foolish. Don't go so far. Like with this, I went like way out of my comfort zone, right? On every level.
Absolutely.
But go have experiences in life. Don't live in the four walls of your dojo is really the
Absolutely.
idea. So whatever that is for you, do that and start saying yes to life, and start saying yes to these challenges that you put to yourself, and maybe go just over the line. So get some
Mm,
success with that, and then go over the next line and over the next line, and I think that's really key. And the other thing that I learned so much from this trip about myself
mm-hmm.
and about
Absolutely.
the way of being. One of the things I did, and this speaks to martial arts, from the minute I left Vermont until I came home to Vermont and have continued to do it, I told myself on this trip, I am going to live in the moment.
Mm,
That I am going to experience every moment as it is, even if it's unpleasant. So I went through, it was 20, not from Vermont door, but from the time I got on the first plane to the next door, it was 26 hours of travel. And because it's literally on the other side of the world. So a
yeah.
lot can happen, right? But I
Right.
told myself, I'm going to live in every moment. And whenever that moment is done, I'm going to see it as an inflection point and call it the next moment.
Mm-hmm.
And when that thing is done, then it's an inflection point. Now I'm in the next moment. And I did that throughout the whole trip. The entire trip, I did that. So I enjoyed all the really cool things and was there for all the really unpleasant things. So now
Mm,
when I come home and I look back, I experienced it all. Every bit of it I experienced. So I was ready for anything. And the other thing that helped with is our translator and our guide. And I think it was mostly cultural. Half the time we had no idea what we were going to be doing. Me and my partner, we were going to be doing next. They just like stop the car and get out and they'd be like, okay, let's go. We'd be like, where are we going? We had no idea. Or they'd walk into a building and we'd just follow them. We have no idea what we're doing. Or she'd be like, okay, let's go over to this teepee and we have no idea why.
mhm,
So half the time we had no clue what was going on. But because we lived in the moment, we just
mhm.
went with it all and enjoyed it all. Even the stuff that wasn't enjoyable, we just found a way to laugh about it.
How incredibly freeing.
There's another lesson in as martial artists, that's everything, right? That's everything. You got to be where you are. If you're not there, you're fighting blind.
Right.
It's like closing your eyes, right?
And also the realization of exactly what you have control over versus
Yeah.
the illusion of what we think we have control over.
Yeah.
That illusion dropping in some ways has to make you more safe.
I agree with that. And
Mhm.
I felt I never once on this entire trip, even during that scenario I talked about, I
Mhm.
never once felt unsafe.
That's
I knew
wonderful.
I was vulnerable, but I didn't
Mhm.
feel unsafe.
Mm.
I knew it was going to work out good because even if it didn't work out good, it was still going to work out good.
Right, right.
Whatever showed up, I was going to deal with it like that. So I never once did I feel like, no,
Mm.
not once
Mhm.
in the whole trip. And there was a lot of things that were tough, you
For
know.
sure.
I should, you know what? I'm gonna say there was one time. So
Okay.
riding the one horse trip, we were riding up this mountain. It was super rocky, a lot of mud and stuff, like big rocks, really unsteady, walking through streams and stuff. And my horse lost its footing and went like this. And I almost went with it. And that scared the hell out of me.
Right.
Because I thought I am going to be breaking a leg in the middle of nowhere. So that was scary. That I didn't feel safe in that moment. But we righted back up and it was good.
Brilliant. I feel the need as we talk to ask how this trip and those experiences has informed you as a healer.
Yeah, that's the big one for me.
And to preface, it's because I feel like every martial artist has duality, right? And yours is that of you're a healer and also a martial artist. But I think that the duality for us as individuals really informs our martial practice, you
Yes,
know? And so like how it helped you as a healer also informs how it helps you as an artist, as a martial
right.
artist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I mean there's like I said at the beginning, there's many levels to each experience,
For
right?
sure. For
So
sure.
and this is for me, right? This
Hmm.
isn't healing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's for me as a healer that I'll open up about. So for
Hmm.
me, it's a spiritual practice. So
Hmm.
when I do healing work, I have some methods. I do acupressure,
Hmm.
clinical acupressure. I do some massage. I do joint manipulation. I do energy work, and I sometimes do hands off. I have method, right?
Hmm.
Skill like methods I've learned. Ultimately, it's a spiritual. It's spirit guided. So when I
Hmm.
do healing work, it's like a trilogy. There's the
Hmm.
patient or client or whatever you want to call them,
Hmm.
the healee,
That's a great term.
right?
We're gonna use that.
Then there's me, and then there's spirit.
Hmm.
So all three are involved. And
Hmm.
so I'm in the middle here and I am connecting with spirit and I am connecting
Mm.
with the patient and I act as a conduit and I'm involved in this. So to be able to do that, I need to purify myself. I need to be
Mm-hmm.
pure. I need to, meaning that I can't have contaminated resistance, right? There
Absolutely.
can be no resistance. So as pure as I can be, right? Because,
Right.
but so one of the things I learned as grew as a healer, not only by doing 40 to 50 healing sessions in really kind of adverse conditions and had good results from it, but spirit was working really strongly with me while I was there. And I'm not going to go into some of those details because they're really very personal to me.
Absolutely.
But one of the major lesson that I think I learned while I was there, the most important lesson is I went to the other side of the world,
Mm-hmm.
literally to the other side of the world, to one of the most remote places on the planet
Mm-hmm.
to learn from healers, connect with shamans, and to learn all these spiritual arts to only find out that I was the healer and that
Mm.
I, and that spirit, the good works that I do, because my whole intention in everything I do is I want to do good works, right? That's it. I mean, that's my deepest health value is I want to do good works, meaning I want to bring have the intention of spirit working through me for whatever somebody in front of me needs. Not what I think they need, but what they need, what they know they need, their soul needs, and spirit knows what they need. And then using my skill and me as a conduit to bring about that. And I forget about outcome. I've learned that lesson. That was part of this trip too. Came to the head, forget outcome, because they play a role in it too. If they're resisting it or they have another idea, then it's something else. But so I came home with this idea and learned it while I was there and had deep discussions with my partner about this in the middle of the forest, that wherever we are,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it's happening.
Mm.
We don't need to learn from this person, have this experience, have that experience. In the end, living a deeply spiritual life, which to me, there's no separation between my healing work and living a deeply spiritual life. There's no separation. They are one and the same thing. One is just an expression of the other, right? The healing work is an expression of the spiritual work.
Sure. Absolutely.
So it's really simple, and I think you saw this. That's why you kind of maybe one of the reasons why you contact me. So we recognized this while we were in the forest is spirituality is quite simple. Living a spiritual life it's so simple. It's not fancy. It's not in the garb. It's not in the ceremony.
Mm.
Can be in those, but it's not
Yes.
those things. We went to some really amazing Buddhist temples and saw like monks that were chanting, and it was really cool. And the gold statues and all this stuff. And I'll say something about that in a minute. But what I recognize is that's a surface level spirituality
Mm-hmm.
that is just can be an expression of, or it can be a mask. It's either an expression or a mask. But what I feel is so simple of the way that we can live a deeply spiritual life, it's so simple. And I've stuck with this and keep looking at it. It's be peace, be love, be present, pay attention, and know that the light of spirit is within you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And if you do those things, and I'm not saying be at peace or be in love, I'm saying be love, be peace. Let that be your state of being. It's not something you do, it's something that you are. You are peace, you are love, you are present. You're right there. Like I said, I lived moment by moment. And you're paying attention. I'm noticing everything that I possibly can that's in my field of understanding. And then recognizing, this was the last piece for me, to truly recognize that the light of spirit is within me. So the good
Mm.
works happen not because I went to Mongolia. The good works happen because I went to Mongolia. And the good works happen here in Vermont. and the good works happen wherever I go. As long as I keep this in mind, to be peace, be love,
Mm,
be present, and pay attention, and know that that light of spirit is within me, and I am enveloped in that light of spirit simultaneously. So I'm both enveloped in it and I am it.
mm-hmm.
So so we integrate the form and the formless worlds. So when I'm doing healing work, that's what it's all about right there. That's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever I'm doing is the expression of that. And spirit guides me through a lot of it, most of it,
Absolutely.
all of it.
All of it. And then what does that feel like when that informs your personal martial practice?
Okay. So I'll answer it first in the way how it informs my healing work. I
Uh-huh.
was doing back to back to back healing during the day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm trying to experience it, and I'm having to go down to the river and get my water and purify that. And, like, I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
It was roughing it and still wanting to do my own practice and live and experience it myself. So back to back to back to back healing work. And they kept saying, "Oh, are you okay? Somebody else would come in and my translator's like, oh, she wants healing. He wants healing. Is it okay?" I'm like, yes, yes, of course, of course. And they kept asking me, are you going to get too drained? Are you going to get tired? I said, no, I feel better when I'm done.
Mm,
I feel energized. There was only one time at the very end of one of the days, it was getting kind of late, kind of to my bedtime.
mm-hmm.
Honestly, it was like at night, and had done I don't know how many healing sessions plus all the daily living and walking from teepee to teepee, and I somebody else came and I said I do, and I realized, okay, I'm done. I can't see another person after this. That was only one out of almost 50, between 40 and 50. So I feel energized. I feel good. Why? Because it's not just my energy, it's the connecting to the universal energy.
Mm,
So if we think of pushing somebody or striking somebody, right? Which I would never do now, right?
mm-hmm.
I'm not going to hit anybody. I'm not going to hurt anybody. It's just not going to happen, right? That's just not going to happen. And even though I have the ability for it, but if we strike, are we only striking, first of all, with just our arm, right? As a teacher, no, you teach a whole body, from the
Mm-hmm.
foot or whatever your system teaches.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't just you're not just hitting with your fist. Well, I say I'm not just hitting with my own energy. I am
Mm,
the energy of the universe, right? As long as I remain in the that space, I am connected to all the energy that's available. It's like a wave from the ocean, of the whole ocean,
mm,
as opposed to throwing a glass of water at somebody, right? Now, it doesn't
yes.
mean I'm necessarily going to hit harder than anybody else. I'm not going to hit a punching bag the way Mike Tyson hits a punching bag, right?
But it's not
But
about that.
but you're going to get my energy, right? But of course, if I am being peace and being love, who the heck am I going to hit? There's no reason to anymore. There's no reason. There is no reason you can get me, at least that I've seen yet for now, that would warrant that, right? Maybe
Right.
I'll get tested.
Right.
But to me,
Right.
the test will be, can I have not hit that person?
Mm,
That's
yes.
going to be the
Yes.
test. The test isn't going to be, can I hit them and defend myself? The test is, can I change the scenario so nobody gets hit? Because that's the real test. So if we're living the
Absolutely.
deeply spiritual life, the real test is, are we able to manipulate, for lack of a better word, or direct the energy of ourselves and of the situation to the point there's no need anymore? It's our
Redirect.
own ego that thinks there's a need to hurt somebody. And we think, well, what about this scenario? What about that scenario? Well, put yourself in a teepee in the middle of a forest, and then you answer that question. Because when somebody answers in that way, they're speaking from their habitual patterns of what they've been learning, not what they've been living.
Well, and also the fear that they carry with them.
Right. When I first was doing full contact fighting, I used to like everywhere I go, I'd sit there and be like, okay, if this happens, I'm going to do this. If that happens, I'm going to do that. Oh, well, what? Look at that guy. And oh, look at that person. All fear based,
Mm-hmm.
all fear based. And I was tight because of it. And I probably wouldn't have been very effective. You know, I had some skill, but I probably would not have been very effective,
Mm-hmm.
even though I was fighting all the time, right? In the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's that idea of, can we get to the point out of our comfort zone and say, how can I work with this energy so that we have no need anymore? I have no need and no desire. I've really lost my desire. And I was kind of a violent person when I was young. This isn't, you're not talking to somebody who was always speaking like this. Right? This evolved over my lifetime, right? And this latest encounter with life in Mongolia helped me grow in such a way that it really fast tracked me. It was a fast track, right? But I also, 25 years ago, I went to China and Tibet, and I had a lot of learning there, spent 2 months there and learned a lot, but not in the way that I just learned from 3 weeks in Mongolia, because I've evolved and I've learned, and I'm a man of peace, and I recognize my energy. I pay attention to what's going on. I live in the moment. So the experience this time, felt very fast tracked from this, right?
Tell me what it was like to do your Tai Chi practice in that environment. That had to be drastically different.
I always say my favorite, and I tell this to my students all the time, one of my favorite things is to do vacation Tai Chi, right?
Yeah.
Again, and I just realized this, it's getting out of our habits.
Mm.
Can you, like, if I'm traveling, my daughter lives about 1,000 miles away, I'd go train somewhere and I'd have to stay in a hotel, and I'd have to go out back and find a little grassy area or a little parking lot where there's some room. And I'd have to do my practice in this really unlikely, peaceful place, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
back of a Holiday Inn or whatever,
Right.
or Super 8, depending on how much money I had at the time. Right? So getting out of that habituated patterns. So I always like doing my practice in places that are not my patio or not my living room.
Mm.
Right? So that's always super useful, right? And even in my space, sometimes I turn around to the way I start in a direction I don't normally start in,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just to get out of that habituated pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So we mostly did Qigong actually in the forest. And there were times that it was magical,
Mm.
unbelievably magical. I went to places and learned some things and was given messages that again, some of them are real personal to me, so I'm not going to share those.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'll share the lessons, but some things are really meant just for me. And then there were other times we would be somewhere and we'd be doing Qigong and we both I wasn't really feeling it. Kind of like everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it didn't
for sure.
matter that I was there,
Mm-hmm.
that promoted it.
Mm-hmm.
It was that I was there doing it. And it did help that I was in this magical, this amazing force. And one of the really cool things, so you couldn't do Tai Chi because we're talking, it's a boggy area. So the ground, it was like walking on a soft carpet, at least in the forest. It was like walking on the softest carpet you'd ever been in. And the ground was like this because the ground moves from the thaw freezing. So there's nothing flat there, right? There's absolutely nothing flat. at least where we were, and in that camp. And so we just did a lot of Qigong and meditation. But there were some experiences I had there I could think of 3 times that I practiced early in the morning. And we would get up before anybody else. They stay up late and sleep a little late. So we would get up, and I'm the opposite. I'm an early morning riser and go to sleep early. So we would get up early and do our practice. And after visiting the tree and the rock, because that's where you had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I had some really amazing experiences with it. Yeah, I went to very
Beautiful.
deep places and learned some lessons for myself, which was really cool. I did do some Tai Chi, but it was mostly Qigong and meditation. Where I did Tai Chi the most was on the horseback and on the reindeer. Yeah, on the horseback and on the reindeer.
Yeah.
Particularly the reindeer, because when we got back, they said, "Oh, you all did good. You didn't fall off. Most people fall off because there's a lot of sideways movement." So I was able to just pay attention where my center was, and I stayed on.
Beautiful. Before we wrap, tell me about the Buddhist temples. You said you were going to circle back.
Oh, yeah. So here's the other lesson that I kind of came to. So we went to these. I mean, they were really amazing. One of them was carved into a mountainside. Like, you had to really walk up these stone carved steps. They had these massive boulders that they did these carvings into of all the deities. And then the temple itself was it was spectacular, right? And just absolutely beautiful. And when we did go into the temple and sat in front of like the altar, I mean, it was palpable. I mean, you could feel the energy of this place. Really cool. And then the other temple we went into in the middle of the city, that's where we saw the monks chanting. We sat with the monks while they chanted. We went there twice. And they had all these gold statues, and they had this massive gold statue, and theirs comes from Tibet. Buddhism is what they practice. It came out of Tibet. So if you know anything about Tibetan Buddhism, like with all the deities, and there's lots of gold and glitter and things like that. And what came to me was this: even though I had great experiences at both of them, it was the gods could care less about the gold.
Absolutely.
The gods could care less about, at least this is what I think, they could care less about that. We use gold and gifts and all these things to pay homage to the gods because that's what we want. And because we think that's what we want in this physical world, we assume this is what's going to please them. So we do that, but really we're just pleasing ourselves. And even if our intention is kind of pure, this is my conclusion. So right or wrong is my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. So the conclusion what I came to out of that is that we're giving the gods what we think we want, but we live in the physical world. They're in the world of the formlessness. What do they have use of gold? What do they have use of glitter? What do they have use of all these things? So they're looking at it like, okay, that's good, but I don't really need it. Don't really want it. What do they want? They want us to be love. They want us to be peace, because that is the energy. We are now giving ourselves completely as energy, and we're speaking their language. So when we are in the place of being peace and we're in the place of being love, we are living the language of spirit, and we are showing our devotion to all being. So that was my conclusion from the Buddhist temples and from everything. And I can also say the Vatican or whatever temple with a lot of marble, or the mega churches with all the money. And, it could be any of those. It's not just the Buddhist temples, right? It's the way that we approach spirit. And I think when we approach spirit, I'm going to reframe that. We want to be peace. We want to be love, because that is the language of spirit.
Brilliant. Before we go, tell me one quick funny story. What was something humorous that happened?
Okay. So reindeer are hilarious, by the way.
Okay.
Okay. Reindeer, they're the calmest, goofiest creatures you would ever meet. Right. So
Okay.
we pull into the camp, riding horseback into the camp and seeing reindeer just walking around. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then we get off the horse and we're getting into our like getting our stuff unloaded from the pack horses and stuff. And reindeer just walking around randomly. Right. And a little while later, I go out to the tree. Right. And also, like when I would meditate or in the forest, reindeer would circle around me, by the way.
Magical.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. And my partner got pictures of that where I'm meditating and the reindeers come up. But the other time they come up, go out to use the tree and I'm urinating on the ground. And all of a sudden I look down and this reindeer head is there. I'm peeing on a reindeer's head and they're lapping up the pee. And I found out later they like the salt and the nutrients. And my partner, who's female, was
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing. She's going to the bathroom and looks down and there's a reindeer head between her legs. So funny. And then another time we had a box out front of our teepee. We had our breakfast. She had coffee. I had tea. And we had our breakfast on. And then a bunch of reindeer came around. There was a lot of dogs too. The dogs were there. They protected like for wolves and they would hunt for wolves because the wolves kill the reindeer. So
Mm-hmm.
they keep the dogs around. So they're kind of wild dogs, but they're not. Very
Mm-hmm.
friendly. But so we're standing there and petting the dogs and stuff. And all of a sudden, a couple reindeer come through and just knock the box over, knock the cups over, knock the plates over. Like, what's going on here? Just like run through it. Very funny. But the
I love
peeing
it.
on a reindeer's head was just, you just can't make this stuff up.
Not very many people could say that they've done that.
And I got pictures of me riding a reindeer, which was just so much fun.
What a wonderfully full experience.
Yeah, and this is just we touched on the tip of the iceberg, but I think we touched on the points that I feel are most important.
For
Yeah.
sure. Is there anything that you wanted to say that I didn't ask or we didn't talk about before we go?
No, I think that the key, especially for your audience, is look at your habitual patterns, pay attention to what's going on, live in the moment. It's really all quite simple. Stop looking for complexity.
Mm,
Stop looking for complexity. Master Zhou Senghua used to always say the simplest is the highest. And now I think I'm starting to understand what he meant by that. So keep
very,
it
very good.
simple. Look for what's real, for who you are. This is all about the way I see it, but who are you?
Rich, you're so generously named because you spread wealth wherever you go. And I greatly appreciate you, my friend.
I appreciate, it's funny how many people there said to me, Rich, that's a good name. They did. It's true.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you,
All
my
right.
friend, for this conversation. I greatly
All right.
appreciate it. And I
Peace.
appreciate you. Yes.